Mama C, and it's time for your Married at First Sight New Zealand Season 3, Episode 7 recap. Well, last time, Anna had called out Vicky for the flirtatious behavior with Jordan. Jimmy and Carmen got some tattoos, and there was still no fireworks for Rose and Chris. Ray and Jono were having some issues. They sought out help from the experts, and by the end of the episode, Jono was ready to leave. Well, tonight, it's our first dinner party. Sounds like it's going to be a bit of a wild ride. Well, first we noticed that there's been a big crash between Ray and Jono. Ray is quite despondent. He says Jono and he can talk when cameras are off, but then cameras go on and he's different. Jono meets with his family to chat for the first time since the wedding. Jono says Ray isn't chill and he's on a roller coaster. He says Ray comes home drunk every night. Jono says he himself can be a, quote, prick, but that isn't what this is. He says Ray gets very aggro, tears him apart, calls him two-faced, and Jono knows he's very emotional, and he tries not to break down. His family says, that if Ray doesn't treat Jono with respect, then there's really no hope. And Jono says he feels like a piece of shit. And he also says there's no more hope. Well, on to Jimmy and Carmen. Well, they're both a bit nervous because they know there's tension in the building. And, who wants to go to a party with a bunch of tension, right? Vicky says she doesn't want to see people right now, even though the Anna-Jordan thing was sorted out. Anna seems positive. She doesn't think Vicky will try to flirt again with Jordan. But everyone is expecting some drama. I shouldn't say a lot, but there are a few people who seem to think that Chris is inappropriate. I don't know if that's just because he doesn't know or what, but that seems to be a thought. I know especially Ray, because Ray just has a serious axe to grind when it comes to Chris. Rose and Chris, by the way, Rose says they're still in friendship mode, but that's okay. That's good. They respect each other and they're friends. Chris says they just need to stick together and try to stay out of the drama at the dinner party. And they both agree to stand together. Ray says they haven't spoken all day, as in he and Jono. It's quite tense. Jimmy and Carmen, well, they start making a plan. Carmen jokes maybe she'll take her shoes off so she can run if there's trouble at the dinner party. Stefan tells Vicky to not make a dick of herself. Jordan seems quite positive. He says he and Anna are doing the best they've ever done. So they're doing great right now. He's quite positive about that. Oh, on to the lads. Well, the lads are quite icy and a bit salty as well. Jono says Ray is drunk already, but Ray's talking at least, he says. All the couples are nervous, but even Ray and Jono laugh that they are at least speaking now. Rose and Chris are so sure that they are chill. It kind of seems like a build-up at this point because you're like, oh dear, what is going to happen? All right, Stefan, he says he's not going to allow personal attacks. Okay, yay. Jimmy and Carmen are the first to arrive, and they decide to order tequila shots. And, because they're like, they don't know what to expect, apparently. Then in walks Anna and Jordan. They come in, they're holding hands. They have drinks with them. Then Rose and Chris, they walk in next. The experts notice the group temperature sort of changes a bit when the older couple walks in. But, everybody's fine, right? Vicky starts to hug people as her and Stefan come in. And the experts say you can tell the tone with each hug is different depending on who she's hugging, which I thought was really interesting. And it was true, because after they said that, it's like you're noticing, like, yeah, okay. So that was very interesting. Oh boy. The lads arrive. Jono goes over and, he stands next to Ray. They're trying to have a united front, it looks like, but the experts know that they run quite hot and cold. Carmen and Jimmy are killing it, as Jono says. He says Ray is in his element, as in the party element, so, he's obviously ready to have a good time. They all sit down. Vicky sits next to Jordan. At first you're like, oh boy, what's this going to be? She's very giggly. It's so obvious that she's just like playing with her hair and it's very giggly. And I'm curious when she watches this back, I'm curious to see if she notices a change in her behavior. It was just really interesting to watch. Uh, Stefan, he does look like he's becoming a bit, I mean, he's starting to physically look a bit uncomfortable at how Vicky is being all giggly and stuff. And she's like just really laughing it up with Jordan. And oh, yeah. Well, in walk the experts. They welcome them to the first dinner party, and they say they want them to go around, and each couple need to talk about their weaknesses and strengths as a couple. So they started off. Jordan says that they have always had a strong connection. They've had their issues and they've been working through them. And each issue they work through, he says that they just seem to get stronger. Anna says she's working on her communication. She's feeling like she's making some strides, and Jordan agrees. She says she's starting to open up. Even though she's, it's scary for her, but she's starting to open up. Carmen calls them the Hollywood couple. All right, on to Stefan and Vicky. Stefan says things are all good. He says they're working on issues, and he says when something comes up, they work on it right away and they move on. He says he's probably the worst person for this, which was really sad because everybody says no, and they're like trying to be encouraging to him because I think he feels quite deflated about it at times. But he says every day he's learning and he's building his confidence, and good on him. It's nice to see him sort of blossom. Yeah, so that's good on him. And then it comes to Vicky. She just says what he said, and that communication is key. But the experts say that body language says way more than what they're actually saying in words. So if you saw the body language, it's just, I don't know. It's hard to make out what Vicky's really thinking. It's like she's trying to, she wants to be nice and she's trying to save face. But I don't know if she's really being honest with herself or with everybody at this point. I don't know. But it's good news, though, that Stefan is starting to get more confident in that. Then everybody says they want them to rate their relationship like on a 1 to 10 sort of scale, and they want them to answer at the same time, and they both answer 7. However, the experts, are doubtful. So, yeah, because they said, well, that's sort of a safe number to throw out there, right? On to, Carmen. Carmen decides to ask the group, have you all had sex? Well, for a second there was a bit of cricket action, just nothing. Then Rose says that she's only admitting to intimacy. Vicky says they've been intimate, but, basically the only couples who've admitted to having sex are Anna and Jordan and Carmen and Jimmy. So I think that was pretty obvious. Stefan says he's happy to not kiss and tell. Jono says his penis has shriveled and gone up inside of him. So, there's that. Rose says that Chris is his own person and they have a lot in common. She says they've struggled with attraction from the beginning, but they're working on it. They've had no arguments, and intimacy is basically on hold, and they are, they're working on things. They're willing to keep going, and they're working on the spark. Chris says he was looking for sort of a tomboy, but Rose is always perfect. He says that. Ray then says he thinks Chris isn't here for Rose. He doesn't say this to group. We get this as an aside. And he doesn't like him. He says it's fake, but it's obvious. Ray doesn't like Chris, and I don't know what happened to just rub him the wrong way, or I don't know what it is, but he is obviously not a fan of Chris. Chris then says he's feeling old because everyone is so young, and they're all young and beautiful and all that, as far as the other couples go. Carmen says they work because they check in with each other a few times a day and say, "Are you happy?" And they say, "Yeah." And they get on great. Rose compliments them as a couple, and Vicky says, "And knowing James before in Greece," I'm really stoked for you. And I was like, what? Oh my gosh. That was a bit rude. Damn, Vicky. Oh yeah, yeah. So the experts say it's like she licked her finger and put it on James, like I had him first. And it was obvious dig, but it's like, dang, Vicky. Apparently, when Vicky has a few glasses of wine, she gets quite bold about what she's gonna say. So, oh, oi. Anywho, so then Carmen says that she and Jimmy got tattoos, and they show their tattoos and all that. And it was kind of funny because then the experts sort of say that I was like, well, there, Carmen just trumped Vicky with the tattoos. It was weird. It was sort of a verbal sort of sparring, but, it was like, it was very delicate, but it was like, it was obvious. Ugh. So anyway, Vicky then asked Jimmy if he has anything to add. And he says, so far, there's no speed bumps. And so there you go. People ask, if there's love, and they're like, well, no, it's too early to say it's love, but it's definite like, and things are going well. Chris then says, well, now let's hear from the gay guys. Well, Ray overreacts just a wee bit, and he puts Chris in his place, and fair enough, but I think he got a bit aggro about it. Chris didn't mean any offense by it, and now he's been schooled. But yeah, but it's like Ray it's like he attacks and then he just couldn't let it go. And he'd already been drinking, so I think that sort of exacerbated things a wee bit. Jimmy says from outside it looks like a roller coaster for Ray and Jono. Jono says that they are both social, but their weaknesses is they're quite different. And Jono's being very diplomatic about it all. It's just, I have to give him credit. He was being very diplomatic about it. Ray seems to say that they're not on the same page. And basically Jono's like, we're not even in the same book. Ray says the attraction was there on the wedding day. It was great, but since, it's been difficult, he says that he's cheeky and, Jono's very sensitive, so it affects Jono. Jono just sits quietly as Ray, talks and says, about their differences, etc. Yeah, it's just, it was weird. It was kind of awkward because, they've been so hot and cold. And anyway, so they basically say it's been very hard. Then Rose, of course, she's lovely and she gives them love, and and it hurts her to hear that they're having difficulties. Then Chris says, he loves them, and he said if Jono was a woman, he'd date him. He's just being funny or whatever. Well, Ray hates Chris. He just hates him. He thinks he's fake as. Ray says, why don't you share about the stag do you organized? And he's like so aggressive about it. And it's like this experts say, oh, Ray's gone into stir mode. And he's like, I'm sure the girls would like to hear. And it's like he just keeps poking and poking and poking. Now, Jono tries to shut down the confrontation. He says to Ray, you're mad at him. It's obvious, you're mad at him. But, let's not, go overreact. Let's not go down that road. I think, and Rose then said she was shocked that Ray reacted so aggressively, but she was quite proud of Chris, the way he handled it. And he handled it like a pro. He really did. He said what he wanted to say, and he said that's that, and that was it. But it's like Ray he gets up and he walks around and he's like goes to the bar, and it's like he was making this big scene, and everybody was really uncomfortable because I don't think anyone wanted that. They just wanted to try to go and get this over with and then go home. Oh man. So anyway, later then Chris and Stefan are in the restroom. Stefan checks in on Chris and he's like, man, you okay? And he's like, dude, you handled that awesome. And then, Jimmy says, I didn't come here for scraps. I came here for a girl. And it's like, that was pretty much, everybody's like, thank you, So that was basically the episode. It wraps it up there. So the drama kind of got shut down. at the dinner party. So, yeah, right? So tomorrow night, apparently the guys are going to have some chatting time. It's going to be our first commitment ceremony, and apparently our people's deepest fears are going to be realized. Who is going to stay and who is going to go? We'll find out. We'll see you again tomorrow night on another episode of Married at First Sight New Zealand Season 3 Recaps.